We need to talk about the 2025-2026 Toronto Raptors, one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now. A team that I think a lot of people were pretty much indifferent on going into the year. They had an over-under of around like 39, 40 games. I was a little bit higher on the Raptors being a more competitive team this year and definitely making it to the play-in tournament, maybe as high as like 7 or 8 in the play-in. Top 6 seed, I didn't really love. Now, we are still a ways to go till the season is over, till they lock themselves up as a top 6 seed in the Eastern Conference. But this team is gelling right now. And more so, the starters are starting to figure out playing together. And I don't know if that comes down on Darko Rajakovic. I don't know if that comes down on the addition of Brandon Ingram. This come down on Emmanuel Quickly actually knocking down his shots, and Scotty Barnes just doing a little bit of everything right now. And this team, like I said, is playing some of the best basketball in the NBA as of late. They recently beat the 76ers. They beat Charlotte. They beat Indy. They beat Cleveland. They beat Brooklyn. They beat in Milwaukee this year. And they actually don't have like an insanely tough schedule coming up either. They have Washington, should be a win. Brooklyn should be a win. Cleveland, Monday night on Peacock, that could be a loss. But then they have Indiana, Charlotte. Like, this is a chance where Toronto, who's 10-5 right now, could be at, like, I don't know, 5 games above 500 at the minimum still, but most likely they could be like 8, 9, 10 games above 500 in a few weeks. Toronto just picked up a really nice win against Philadelphia, who was without Paul George, and they were without Joel Embiid, and we've been kind of going through that whole same song and dance with them this season. And going into the year, one of my like bold predictions, I thought Toronto was going to finish as like a top 7 defensive team, which I don't think is super bold, because if you watched their defense last year, they were pretty physical for like a bottom 5-6 team in the NBA. They had around a league average defense. This year, I was really excited about what their defense could be with Pirtle as like an underrated rim protector, what Scotty Barnes can do, and them using their top 10 pick on the second best defender in the 2025 draft in Colin Murray-Boyles. And this team has actually been so much better offensively. Right now this year, the Toronto Raptors are basically ranked 3rd in the NBA in field goal percentage, 9th in the NBA in three-point percentage. They're 25th though in three-pointers attempted, so it's not like the most incredible volume, but they're knocking down their higher quality shots. They're about ranked 5th in 2-point percentage this year. They're basically ranked 15th in getting to the free throw line this year. They're 4th in assists per game. Like, hell yeah, that's what I want to see from the Toronto Raptors. I was worried about like their floor spacing going into the year. How is their ball movement going to look with adding Brandon Ingram, who's not much of like a high volume 3-point shooter. He hasn't even been that great from 3 this year, but operates like a maestro out of the mid-range, who can get to his spots, who can finish tough, difficult shots better than not that many other guys in the league can. And he has looked the part this year. This is exactly what Scotty Barnes needed in Toronto. He's averaging 21 points this year, 5.5 rebounds, 4 assists. He's shooting about 57% on twos, and he's just a money mid-range shooter, basically where he's made his money in his career. And this was an addition that happened at the deadline last year, but when you're talking about like some of the best offseason additions, right? You're talking about Kevin Durant, you're talking about Desmond Bane, you're talking about Cooper Flagg, you're not really talking about Brandon Ingram, because it happened at the deadline last year, but this is like technically a new addition for the Toronto Raptors, and he has been great this year. Scotty Barnes has looked the part this year, and he did not look great in preseason. I guess we're waiting that Scotty Barnes just does not care about preseason, but he is knocking down his threes this year at a great rate. I like the shot diet as well. Like, he's not taking a ton. It's about 3.5 a night. 39% from 3 is what I love to see. He's averaging around 8 rebounds, 5 assists. At times is like the de facto point guard of this team. And Emmanuel Quickly was a disappointing player last year. He was banged up, getting off to a slow start this year as well. It's turning into like not a favorable contract. He's knocking down his threes now, exactly what Toronto needs him to be. About 16 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, 38 from 3. I still love Emmanuel Quickly's defense. I think he gives such a good effort. He does such a good job fighting over screens and plays physical and plays kind of like a pesky just defender on you, especially if you like try to back him down, because he's somewhat of a smaller guard out there. I think the trio of Ingram, Scotty Barnes, and Brandon Ingram have looked great this year for the Toronto Raptors. Now, RJ Barrett has been good if you look at the numbers, right? 50 from the field, 34 from 3, and that's okay, especially his quality of shots. Like, when you're actually watching the Raptors games, sometimes it stops possession. Sometimes he likes to get into his own rhythm, and it kind of disrupts the flow of what Darko is trying to do. He's still averaging 19 points this year, 5 rebounds and 4 assists. And I'll get to RJ Barrett in a little bit, but I don't think he's as good as his numbers showed. He could be a lot worse. I think he's been fine. I think RJ Barrett is maybe in the first percentile of players that can get to the rim, but in the bottom percentile of players that could finish at the rim. We're going to get to RJ Barrett. That's this whole different thing. I think Jakob Poeltl is also like a top guy in this league who does a lot that doesn't show up in the box score. It's fighting off a guy for an offensive rebound that might not go to him, but goes to somebody else. Like, he boxes out extremely well on both ends. He sets great screens. He makes great reads, and he's just not going to make a lot of dumb mistakes out there. Jakob Poeltl is just a seasoned veteran in this league. Is he overpaid? Like, the contract I might not love. It goes deep into his 30s, like his mid 30s, but Toronto is not a big free agency spot, right? They want to keep the asset they have. And I think Poeltl was fantastic against Philly. It was a Philly team that had basically no healthy guys in that front court, like no George, no Embiid. So this could look completely different if we're watching Jakob Poeltl against Cleveland this Monday night. Can look completely different if I'm watching him against like Jalen Duren or Karl-Anthony Towns in the playoffs. But I think for who he's played this year, even though he was hurt to start off the year, Poeltl's look good. Conor Murray-Boyles, not taking a ton of them, but is knocking down his threes. Like, hell yeah, that's what I want to see from Conor Murray-Boyles, who's not played every game for them, but I think has shown nice flashes of a top 10 pick. He's so physical down low and finishing around the rim. And I think could have an interesting game or two-man game with Scotty Barnes. Jamal Shed, 3-and-D, second-round pick from the 2024 draft. Sandro Mamu has been one of the best value pickups from the 2025 offseason. I wanted my Knicks to get him. I really did. And he got basically the minimum, and he's shooting 42% on threes. You could put him out there with Scotty Barnes and Ingram and even RJ Barrett at times, or Conor Murray-Boyles, and you're not worried about your floor spacing because now I have somebody that's shooting 40% from three at my 5 spot. That is still such a physical big man. And honestly, Toronto's got to parlay this into a longer-term deal, in my opinion. Grady Dick has not been like disappointing this year, but I think with like Murray-Boyles in the mix, Ingram in the mix, this team has a smaller like margin for error basically because they want to make the playoffs this year. So if Grady Dick has a bad stretch, we're not going through the growing pains of your first 2 years anymore. Like, we need you to be a key contributor, a consistent player, because we want to make the playoffs. Grady Dick, 3-point specialist. It's dipping a little bit this year. Jacoby Walter hasn't really shown a lot. He did have a solid performance against Philadelphia. Hopefully that gains some momentum. And I like Agbaji in a pinch, but it hasn't really been a lot for him this year. And Jamison Battle can knock down threes. Toronto, I think, fascinates me on the whole RJ Barrett situation, because RJ Barrett is making around 25-ish million this year. Or 27 million, 29 million next year. Not the worst contract, not a great contract. They tried moving him in the offseason. And I think this is what the piece that can change. I think quickly is a long-term piece. Ingram, Barnes, Mamu, Poeltl, CMB, Grady Dick, those guys, Shed, here to stay. As much as I like RJ Barrett and it's cool, he's from Toronto, I think this is the position where you can leverage Barrett. Maybe it's Grady Dick, maybe it's draft capital. It's hard to figure out who could be the guy. Like, it's funny. I think OG Anunoby would be the absolute perfect guy next to Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes, because Barnes is a good, like, physical defender down low, and he's a great help defender. But, like, sometimes when you're asking him to guard, like, a Jason Tatum of the world or an Anthony Edwards, there's somebody I'd like a little bit more physically imposing on the perimeter, a little bit stronger, especially fighting over screens. And I think like OG is obviously the perfect guy for that, but also could be like a tertiary shot creator and just like that 3-and-D role for this squad. They don't grow on trees. It's incredibly tough to find. And this team could use, I don't know, I feel like an OG Anunoby. And you're going throughout the league and you're just kind of figuring out like what works best for this roster. I mean, would Herb Jones ever become available? It's really tough to figure out somebody in that role. And Herb Jones hasn't really been shooting the ball all that well this year. I mean, it's really tough to go around the league and try to find that guy that could be a 3-and-D, like also could shot create a little bit in a sense. And it's really tough. Like, I don't think Quentin Grimes is as good of a defender, and I don't even know if he would ever be made available. Derek White, would he ever be made available? Probably not by the Boston Celtics this year. So I don't know. They don't grow on trees. I don't think it's going to happen soon. Like, PJ Washington intrigues me, but I'm just not sold on PJ Washington's 3-point shot. And he can't even get traded this year either, given how late he signed that extension in the offseason. Like, Sacramento could fire sale, but they don't really have that guy that I think could be that role. Dillon Brooks is also probably the fit here. You would really have to give Phoenix an intriguing offer, because I don't think Phoenix would be like set on Dillon Brooks long-term, but Phoenix has been solid this year. They could make the playoffs, and they don't own their first-round pick. I don't think Jonathan Kuminga is ever going to grow into that role, so it's easier said than done. I mean, when you're looking at some of their lineups this year, you're basically seeing like their three-headed or most amount of minutes is Quickly, Barrett, and Barnes. They're +2 in the net rating aspect. I mean, Barrett hasn't. I don't know. I just don't love. I don't know if that's more of an eye test thing, that I just don't love the fluid ball movement with Barrett out there. I actually do kind of want to play around a little bit here with this and see Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett in terms of what their on-off numbers are as a duo. So on they're slightly better, but yeah, you could see how much better Scotty is when RJ Barrett is off the floor going forward. So that's something to maybe keep an eye on. Or if I looked at potentially Brandon Ingram instead of Scotty Barnes, what does that look like? So yeah, they're not a great fit, Barrett and Ingram, it looks like. Yep, you could really see this is maybe where you don't really notice that much synergy between the two, and we can move on. But if I look at like a 3-man lineup of Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, and Emmanuel Quickly, I mean, it's a high sample size this year. I mean, it's not the best net rating in the world, but you can see Quickly's a good fit with Ingram. Quickly's a good fit with Barnes, and you're going to live with Barnes and Ingram, right? Like, that's what you want to operate with going forward, because these are the two highest paid guys on the team. They have a negative net rating right now. I mean, that could also be skewed. We're still so early in the year, like only 300 minutes between these guys. But if I throw like Sandro into the mix, with them three on the floor, Ingram, Barnes, and Sandro, they're +7.4. If I run the 4-man lineup of Barnes, Ingram, Mamu, and Quickly, they're a +9 right now. Like that, it's only 24 minutes. That's such a small sample size, but I think there is potential with that foursome going forward. And like I said, I like Jakob Poeltl. I think he does a lot that doesn't show up in the box score. I mean, I just also looked at OKC. I don't know if Lou Dort would ever be made available because of like the apron stuff, but he could be a fun fit. Atlanta, I don't think has really a guy like that right now. Like Jalen Johnson's not getting traded. So, yeah, I think like Toronto could be on the lookout for somebody like that. They've been a lot of fun to watch this year. I think they're a team that's going to be an annoying team to play. I wonder how their three-point shot is going to look over the course of the year. It was something I was worried about going into the year, and it's been a pleasant surprise. It could come down just on the shot selection in general. Their bench, it's also hot and cold, because when you look at the guys, it's like, oh, Jonathan Mogbo, like, is he going to get playing time on this team going forward? Like, he hasn't really gotten it this year. Battle and Walter and Agbaji, even Grady Dick, inconsistent playing time, but these are all guys that you would feel comfortable in your rotation. So I think it's really just for Darko's job to find the best lineup iterations over the course of the year. What's going to work best when they hit adversity? If Scotty, Ingram, Quickly, Poeltl, like, suffers a 3-week injury or something like that, who steps up going forward? And would this team end up being aggressive at the deadline? They own all their draft picks going forward. Like I said, some intriguing young players on the team like Grady Dick, Walter, Agbaji, Mogbo, along with RJ Barrett's money, could land you somebody. Dylan Brooks is probably my favorite guy that I talked about for this team. Canadian, but I just don't think Phoenix would be in the market to trade him right now. Derek White probably not going to get traded. It's really tough, like, to figure out the person in that role going forward. I'd love to know what you guys think about the Toronto Raptors. Are you maybe high on them this year? 10-5 start. Like, they got Indy, Washington, Brooklyn coming up as well. Like, this team could easily be like 13-6 and be a 2 seed for the month of December. Let me know. Are you buying the Raptors and their hot run right now? Do you think it's still so early in the year to say that they're better than like Atlanta, Orlando, Boston, Philly? Because if I'm talking about a playoff series, like, I'm taking Cleveland over them still. Like, I got to see more out of them. I got to see it. I'm still going to take New York over them. I'm probably going to take Detroit over them. Just like for now, it's still early, but Orlando, Atlanta, like, these teams could be up in the air. I'm excited when they go up against each other again, because Toronto is really clicking right now, and they've been a fun team to watch. And I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Let me know what you guys think about the Raptors down below. Catch y'all on the next one. Peace.